let's get to the news.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. North and South America, and all the ships and clippers at sea. Let's go to press.
We are way over time, so let's see if we can move through this with some alacrity.
Story of my life.
That's okay. First bit of news is about a game called Verdun Steel Inferno. This is a two-player card-driven war game about the Battle of Verdun in World War I. And there's a famous World War I cartoonist named Tardy, and his art is on every card. And if you go look at this on Kickstarter, it's got, it may be over by the time you guys read this. So I'll just keep it quick. If you check it out, it may have already ended, but maybe they'll open it up again later. It is gorgeous implementation. If you ever played a game called The Grizzled, stunning combination of art and theme. This is very much the same, just in a bigger game, in an actual block war game that plays very light and very interesting. I highly recommend you check it out. Next up, Portal Games has made a couple announcements. One thing is Robinson Crusoe. It was a very popular game from a few years ago. Did you ever play Robinson Crusoe?
I did. I played it a long time ago. Yeah.
Yes, it's a story game basically.
Yeah, it was fun.
Almost a choose your own adventure. The designer is one of our favorites, Ignacy Cevicek, the Czech designer who does pretty amazing things. They put together a thing called the Treasure Chest. It's going to be coming out at Essen this coming year. And Treasure Chest is going to include all of the promos, all of the little extras. It's basically going to be a blinged out copy of Robinson Crusoe with all of the add-ons that you could possibly have for the game. And listen, if you like that kind of game, if you like that story game where, okay, do I gather firewood or do I go explore inland or do I go seek out this or do I go seek out that? It reminds me of Zork and those like text adventure games way back in the day.
Wow, I remember playing that. I remember being in Boston at someone's house in Boston. I'm not even from Boston, but I just remember being in Boston playing Zork on a Wang computer. Do you remember Wang computers?
Yeah, I had the Apple IIe back then, like the second Apple.
Oh, I love that. Like the pre-Macintosh Apple.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the days. Those text-based games. I used to actually design them on BASIC. I taught myself BASIC because I used to get the 321 Contact magazine, and they would have a section in there where it says, just enter in all this code and you can have a game where you can make planets. So I literally taught myself BASIC from Contact magazine and started creating Zork-type games that didn't really make sense, but sorry, I just really had like I just really went back in time there for a moment.
And that was the beginning of No Man's Sky.
It's being my game brain.
Portal Games has a second game coming out. It is called $1 Million Script. $1 Million Script is a party game, 3 to 10 players, age 14 and up. And the idea is it's very much, there are a lot of games that are in the style of apples to apples, by which we mean not really a game because what you're doing is you're having two people or two competing teams that are making something up and somebody is judging which is better.
Right.
And in this case, though, I don't know. Maybe it's just because of the profession that we're in, but it does seem kind of fun where you're being given these elements and you have to pitch a movie idea to studio execs, and it seems like it can be pretty zany and pretty fun as far as that kind of game goes.
Because it's like rival pitches, but then there's gonna be multiple pitches that's gonna tell an overall story, right?
Yes.
So it's actually very accurate to the process. I mean, just get a patchwork of writers and an executive who's like, I guess I'll have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then next thing you know, you have Hudson Hawk. So.
Don't you dare say a bad thing about Hudson Hawk.
You know what? I feel bad because I actually have never seen Hudson Hawk, and I just Hudson Hawk shamed.
Okay, you need to watch Hudson Hawk immediately.
It was just the first movie that came to my mind at that moment.
It's not. It's delightfully, wonderfully odd.
Okay.
All right. It is. Is it good? No, I couldn't say that. But it's in that Showgirls vein where they go for it so hard that you just have to say,
you just have to admire it.
Wow, that's kind of crazy, and like weirdly, they went all the way through the infinity of bad onto the good side, right?
Yeah.
They went through infinity the other side of it.
I apologize to all the Hudson Hawk fans out there. It was the first sort of like bomb I could think of, which is odd. I feel there was one very recently, and I just can't. Cats. Oh,
Cats
God,
would have been so perfect.
That would have been so good. Sorry.
And Trishon.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I may be the only Hudson Hawk fan.
I know. As
listening
soon as
to
I
this
got
thing.
through like just saying Hudson, I was like, yeah, I guarantee Tom's gonna be like, I worked on that movie or something like that.
I did not. I had nothing to do with the writing of that movie, but I would have been very happy if I did.
Oh.
Next up, PAX Premiere. PAX Premiere is doing a reprint. People said we couldn't get enough of it. There are 12 days to go on the Kickstarter, and the PAX Premiere second edition is virtually exactly the same as the reprint is almost exactly the same as the second edition. The only differences are there was some typos on a few cards, and that has been cleared up. And those leader discs, those kind of not the easiest in the world to see leader discs, no longer are they laser cut. They've done it much more simple. They've done a wood print on the wooden discs, which supposedly should look clearer, look better, and be a lot cheaper to produce. So other than that, it's exactly the same PAX Premiere. You've heard us talk many, many times. It was Maddie's number one game of 2019.
Crazy.
Number one.
Wow.
Of
That's
20.
crazy. I can't. So like I'm a little bit of a PAX Premiere hipster in that I've only played the first edition, not the second edition. But
Wow.
I liked it, but I would never put it above Barrage ever.
Listen, I didn't even put it on my list because it was supposed to be new games, and technically it's not a new game. But
Yeah.
Maddie's point of view is that it's so different that it is a new game. So you're going to
Maybe I
have
should
to
try
probably
it.
try it.
I mean, it has a piece of cloth.
I really like it.
It looks very pretty. I like that.
Done. Next up, there is a game called Stick'em that's coming out. The first reason I'm talking about this is because Capstone Games is putting it out, and I don't think that there is a game publisher that has been on the run that Capstone is on, maybe in gaming history. I can't think of any publisher that has put out more amazing games in a row than they have without any real miss.
Yeah,
Kind
that's
of
fair.
crazy. This is a very different game than most of what they put out. This is a super light game. It is a card game. It is a trick-taking game. Its original title back in, I think it was from 93 or something. I remember playing it when I first started getting back into Euro games, like way back, like 20 years ago is when I was playing it, or 15 years ago, something like that. And the original title was
Hudson Hawk, the card game.
Stick'em. And basically, we're calling it Stick'em. And the idea is you get a hand of cards, 5 different colors, and the 5 different colors are the 5 different suits. Numbers go from 0 all the way up to 14 or 15 or something like that. And the first thing you do each round is you put one card face down in front of you, and then everybody flips it over. That's your pain color. If you win tricks of that pain color, all the numbers on those are negative points.
Okay.
If you win the other tricks, right? If you win the other colors, each card of a different color is worth 1 and only 1 point.
Okay.
So the idea is don't take tricks of your pain color, but
No
everyone
pain.
knows what your pain color is, so they're trying to stick you. When
This sounds like a psychological evaluation, by the way.
Oh, it is. It is. It's sort of a predecessor to Teach You in a lot of ways. It has a lot of that. It's. I remember it very fondly. I haven't played it in 15 years probably, but I remember it quite fondly. I was like, wow, this is awesome. I remember having a wonderful, wonderful time playing this game every time I have. So you might need to check this out.
Yeah, I read the little write-up on Board Game Geek, and the author was, at first I was like, oh, okay, cool, they're doing a light card game. But by the time I got to the write-up, I was like, you know what, this looks incredibly fun. And I have a bunch of my friends right now, we're super into Six Nimps. And so this seems like it would be a perfect sort of not next step, but a perfect complement to something like Six Nimps, a light card game with a lot of sort of funky interaction.
Yeah, I think that this is more strategic.
Yeah, Six Nimps does a little bit of like a Wild West craziness, but that's what's sort of fun about it.
Yeah. It's I would say Six Nimps is a throw it around, mess around, and try to do your best managing chaos game.
Exactly.
Whereas Stick'em is definitely more of a knife fight in a phone booth. It's more like I have 4 cards in my hand, 3 of them are instant death. Can I figure out which one isn't based on the information that I have? Right? It's very It's strategic, but in a fun, sort of fast way.
Yeah, it looks like a blast.
Have you ever played Tichu?
You know what? In case you couldn't tell from my, I've been.
I'm thinking you have not.
No, I actually own it. I've been wanting to play it. Every time I'm like ready to play it, you know, I bone up on the rules. I even have the app. I played the app because the rules I know are like, I feel like before the first time you've played and like you've actually like processed the rules, they come for some reason they're oddly difficult. But I also feel like I sense that once you play it for the first time, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Because I've heard that Tichu is the sort of game you just sort of play it all night and it's just the most fun ever.
Yes, it's amazing.
I can't wait to play it.
My wife's favorite game by a country mile. And the way I teach it, the best way to teach it is first, don't play with the 4 special cards and just play a regular round. No Tichu scoring, no nothing, just regular scoring. So that you learn how you can play a single card and everyone has to follow the single card, or a pair and everyone has to follow the pair and all that sort of stuff. Then the second round, you add in you can bet 100 points that you're going to go out first. And if you go out first, here's what happens. And if you're the last one without cards, here's what happens. And then the third round, you play with the 4 special cards. And I think I found that that's the best way to, because it's just, you're absolutely right. There's a surprising amount of rule density for a card game, but if you teach it in those 3 packets, I found it works pretty well.
Thank you, because I really really want to play it very badly,
dude. Let's get it going on Tabletop Simulator or something like that.
Okay,
that's fine. You know what? I think there are actually places that online that do it automated. Brett Spielwelt or something like that.
Okay,
can do it. Next up, Candace Harris, who is one of our board game crew. She's
lovely.
She is amazing, isn't she?
Oh my goodness! I only just met her. I actually recognized her because she does the videos on Board Game Geek for game night, and when she came in, I was like, "Oh, you're from those videos," and she is just a delight.
Candace really is. We very much enjoy her company. She went to GAMA this last week and did a lot of reporting for the Geek. She did some videos, but she also did this thing in the news. She wrote up an article that's very interesting to us. She wrote that there is going to be a new edition or a sequel to Twilight Struggle called Twilight Struggle Red Sea: Conflict in the Horn of Africa. This is going to be a 2-player card-driven game, just like the regular Twilight Struggle, but it's going to play quick. It's going to play in about, it's described as a lunchtime game. Looking at it, it looks like there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 11 or 12 different territories to control. So the map is very condensed. It looks awesome. I very much look forward to checking that out. There is no news as to when this is coming out, so this seems to be in a very advanced teaser. But all this is GMT Games. GMT is the one that puts this out. They're also doing a game called Conquest and Consequence. It is a distant cousin of Triumph and Tragedy, which I've never played, but there's this whole subculture of war game adjacent.
Okay.
Which is sort of like not sort of Eurogamers could play this and enjoy themselves without feeling totally war game overwhelmed.
Okay.
Triumph and Tragedy is one of those games. It's a really, really interesting game that plays perfectly with 3 players, which is another rare thing. It's designed for 3 players specifically. Churchill is another one of those that I can think of that is designed. Maria, very good. Yes.
Still another one, along with Tichu, that is on my wall of shame. I was so happy that I got my copy of Maria 2 years ago, and I still have not played it.
Well, you know what? I don't even have Maria because I slightly prefer Friedrich,
which just got re-released.
Yes, it did. So we're putting up a list of things you and I are gonna have to play together because
I know
I am dying to find people to play Friedrich.
Well, I'll play Friedrich as long as you play Maria with me also, because I need to play Maria.
No problem.
Yeah,
absolutely. A lot of people think Maria's better. Well, so
this could be the ultimate test.
I've only played Maria twice, so
okay.
I do not have the body of information to say that it's not as good. Just that I didn't enjoy it quite as much. It's a little less asymmetric, and that might be where my issue came in. Let's see. There's one other thing we want to talk about as far as GMT goes, which is Dominant Species Marine is through the art department and is moving toward production. And we've learned a little bit more. Candace wrote a little bit more about the way the game is going to work. Here are the takeaways. Instead of playing 2 to 6 players like Dominant Species did, it only plays 2 to 4. So that's a boo. The actions that you take are taken immediately when you place your pawn. When you choose your action, you take your action, which was very different than the original Dominant Species, which was a lot crunchier because everyone would choose their action and then you would take your action. So there was a lot of foreplanning and forethought that would have to go into what you were going to do. I'm going to put that as maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. I kind of liked the crunch of it, but I can see the problem with it too.
Yeah, I've never actually played the original Dominant Species. It was one that I wanted to play, but then I heard, actually it was several months ago, that you guys were talking so excitedly about this coming down the pipeline that whatever interest I had in the original, I sort of like put that to the side, and I sort of said, I'm gonna put all my eggs in the Dominant Species marine basket.
Oh,
so
good.
that's where my mind's at.
Yeah, I mean, don't just take my word for it, because for Trey and I, we found it to have a problem. The dominance checks were very take thatty in a game that didn't really feel like it fit, and it was very not just bash the leader, but sometimes just beat up on somebody in a way that just didn't feel like it matched the rest of the game. That said, Jennifer, the game pioneer, it's in her top 5 games of all time and completely disagrees with us.
Wow.
So and it's a beloved game, and you will not see Trey and I bashing the game. We think it's an amazing design. It's just that one aspect of the game kind of soured it for us a little bit, and it may just be the way we play it. We just play like real jerks.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's more of a Trey and Tom issue than a dominance. I mean,
it could be. But speaking of, dominance checks are no longer going to be on a per tile basis. They are going to be over the entire board, which sounds to me like it may fix exactly what our issue with original Dominant Species was. Dominance checks, instead of being so targeted and I'm going to destroy you, seem like it might be that they become a global board-wide phenomenon that is much harder to specifically pick on one person, and rather become something that everyone has to adjust to and deal with and try and avoid. If that's the case, then I cannot wait to get this game, because it really is an amazing design, a seminal design, and I'm dying to check it out. Unfortunately, Chad, the designer of the game, is no longer with us. Chad Jensen passed in 2019. And we're going to miss him very much, but I'm really happy that his last design is going to be coming out soon, and I look forward to checking it out.
absolutely.
Vampire the Masquerade has a board game coming out called Vendetta. If you don't play role-playing games, you might not know what it is.
I have no idea what any of the words are that you just said.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Interesting. All right. So after the Dungeons and Dragons and all that sort of stuff, like back in the 90s or late 80s, early 90s, new companies started coming out with role-playing games. They had different mechanics, different rules, and a different focus. White Wolf put out a game called Vampire the Masquerade, where everyone is playing a vampire, and there are several different clans of vampires, and they're sort of like different character classes because they each have specialties. The Tremere were magicians, the Bruja were the more bestial and animalistic ones, and they could transform into things. The Malkavians were insane, and they had special abilities because of that. And it was all, we're all super powerful vampires that have lived for centuries, or maybe not. Maybe we live for just a little bit of time. The longer you live, the older you are, the more power you have. And it was a revelation. At the time, even though there are issues with it, it was amazing because it sort of pushed you to role play as opposed to roll the dice and play.
Oh.
It was very gothic. But it's set in modern day. Immersive, soapy.
Ooh,
maybe
I like
a little bit.
Okay, now you're talking my language,
right?
Soapy, yes,
like a little bit, yeah. Because there would be all this. It was a very palace intrigue sort of game where
I like it.
Where there's a very strict hierarchy and betrayal and backstabbing and 500-year-old grudges that are being carried out today behind the scenes, and you're never quite sure what anyone's up to. It was fantastic. in the LARP community that Trey and I are very much a part of, it's an issue because what happens is that they do these huge vampire persistent LARPs, meaning that when one LARP ends, the next LARP is going to begin with the same sort of thing. And unfortunately, all of that soapy goodness that is in a role-playing game works so well for some people, doesn't work so well. People have found it to be not a welcoming community because when you come in, the person in power is in power and they want to stay in power, and the 2 people under them or the 4 people under them are in power and they want to stay in power. So you, as the brand new character that just comes in, you have to be lucky to find a group that is going to include you and not just exclude you because you don't have any power and you're not of much use.
I mean, this is really pretty much like being on Real Housewives of New York. I mean, that's what Aviva faced. She came in, she was new. You have certain people that are at the top. You have Ramona Singer at the top of the pyramid who just wants to stay in power, and Aviva is just trying to make her way.
But God bless that Vassar girl, that one-legged dynamo. She just...
You know what? She was only on for 2 seasons, but we'll remember her forever.
Forever. Absolutely. Anyway, Vampire the Masquerade Vendetta is actually a friend of mine, Ryan Schoon, for Man vs. Meeple, did a short review of it, or a short playthrough of it. Okay. It's a short game. It's 30 minutes. It's like a intrigue / combat game where up to 4 different vampires are playing to get these special cards in the center of the board. You're playing cards to do that. You can play them face up, in which case people know what's coming, or you can play them face down, in which case there'll be a surprise, but you have to spend blood to do that, and blood is your main resource for gaining extra points and doing extra things and all that sort of stuff. So it looks light. It looks kind of Euro trashy. So
Euro trashy
a little bit.
Okay.
Do you not know that term?
I just only know of Eurotrash in like the sense of like I know of Ameritrash.
Oh, I should have said Ameritrashy. Yeah, I meant Ameritrashy.
I was like, whoa! Did it like have a cheap cologne on it, or
it had a little bit too much gold.
When you open up the box, because
we like deep house.
I was like, wow, that was a scathing indictment right there. It's a Euro trashy game. Wow.
Holy cow, I didn't remember I did that. And last in the news, we're going to talk about some app news because, hey, guess what? You all should be doing a little less face-to-face gaming for a short period of time and a little more online gaming.
App it up.
Absolutely. Labyrinth, War on Terror, a very, very, very good game, is now on Steam. And if it's anything, listen, it's a card-based war game about the war on terror in Afghanistan. I have played it a few times. I own it, and it is a very interesting game. I like it a lot. It's one of the earliest games. It's sort of a predecessor to the Coin series. A lot of the things that the Coin series, the Counterintel and Insurgency, that game series came out of some of the design choices in Labyrinth. Check it out. See if you might like it. Mystic Vale. Mystic Vale is a very interesting game where you have cards that are a little see-through, and so you can add things by sliding a card over a card. You're adding to that card's power.
Card building.
Yeah, a very interesting design. That is also online.
It's on the Switch, actually, which I think is a great idea. I've never even played Mystic Vale. This is, by the way, a great debut for me. Every game, I'm like, well, I haven't actually played that game, but I actually don't really know much. I've just played Catan, basically. But I think the Switch is great because everything that I've seen and read about Mystic Vale is it gets a little annoying. Have to slide things into these pouches.
Yes.
And at the end, take everything out. So just have it all online and just have a computer do everything for you. That's great. That's a great use of the Switch.
Now, let me say this. Ben is one of the guys who brings games to game night. I got hundreds and hundreds of games back here.
I do.
And you always have a shopping bag.
I do.
And it's a reusable shopping bag. And it always has 2 to 4 games in it. And every single time you bring it, there's at least 2 games that I have not played yet. And I just want to say thank you for that. You you are a very knowledgeable, very experienced gamer. You've played a ton of different games, and you have great taste. Deluvia Project, you and I have talked about, I thought is one of those hidden gems from last year that didn't quite make my top 10 list, but is way up there in terms of my esteem for the game. I think it's a brilliant design.
Well, I was shocked it didn't make your top 10 list because after you played it, you said it was your number 2 game of the year. So I was shocked that it didn't make it all the way make any inroads. But I figured what was at play was that it really technically is a game from 2016 or 14 or 15 or something like that.
Yeah, it's that it was not actually it was not actually a new game, and that I had only played it once, so I don't have enough plays. Yeah, it's a 2016 release is the real reason. The same reason PAX Premier didn't make the cut. It had to be a release of 2019.
Yeah.
But I should have mentioned it. I should have mentioned
That's
in terms
okay.
of my favorite game plays of the year. Deluvia Project was amazing.
It's amazing, and I would love to maybe on a future episode maybe revisit it in a proper way because it's a game that deserves a lot of love.
Absolutely.
Hey, if you enjoyed that video, you very well might enjoy the other videos you now see being suggested to you on screen. Also, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could like, share, or subscribe to our Game Brain channel. Thanks so much.